Welcome back to episode 108 of Tall Boy Radio. You're very lucky tonight because actually we've got 4 hosts, one of which might not last a full hour, though he did say. So without further ado, let's get ourselves... Well, tell us a little bit about where you've been anyway, Gazza.
Yeah, hi guys. It is good to be back. I've been off for a few weeks. I decided to try and do my best sort of BMX trick and decided to take a tumble, sort of fracture my collarbone in 4 places, and then damage ribs as well. So I've had a bit of a hiatus, as they say. Just about feeling on the mend at the moment. As you can probably see if you're watching this, I am still slightly incapacitated with a sling on, but it's probably the first week or so that I've been able to sort of sit up and talk relatively comfortably with my ribs and stuff. So glad to be back and glad to be with you guys. I probably won't make the whole hour. I'm looking at 15-20 minutes. I just said to the lads off camera, I've taken some meds, so they're probably going to make me go slightly sleepy in the next sort of half an hour, 40 minutes. So I'm probably with you for 15-20 minutes and then hopefully be all good for next week.
Winner, chicken dinner. Who wants to say hello next? We should go to Andy next. He's a regular host before we introduced our guest host for the next couple of weeks. Andy?
Howdy. It's good seeing Gaz back. Can't wait to see the cameo in Jackass 4. Yeah, hopefully we'll see you more back on the show and all
that. Winner. You've got any? What are you drinking? We know Gaz ain't drinking tonight. Have you got a beer there, dude?
Just JD and Coke.
Indeed. And then we have an extra host, as I mentioned there. So Dave is going to join us for the next couple of weeks. He's going to host it in sort of Gaz's absence because actually we're recording 2 episodes tonight. So he kindly volunteered his services. So do you want to say hello, Dave, and tell us if you're drinking any beer or any other?
Yeah, hi, everyone. I thought I'd come out in sympathy with Gaz, actually. I'm just drinking water. It's not really fair. Gaz, big beer drinker, loves his beer. I can't have him sitting there on his own without a beer. And if I've got one, so not really. I haven't drank this year so far. Thinking back fondly to your episode of New Year's resolutions, I'd love to catch up on that at some point. But not drinking at the moment. So water for me.
Winner. Fair play, dude. I think. Well, I am drinking a beer with a delightful title. It is called Juice Forsyth. When you see a name like that, you got to pick it up, haven't you? Juicy bonus fruited IPA. It's 5%. Well, I'm not entirely sure who makes it, but I've got to be honest, it is pretty good. It is pretty fruity. Lacks a little bit of body because it's only 5%, but I'm not going to hold that against it. So Gaz has told us a little bit about his broken collarbone there. Has anybody else ever broken a collarbone, just out of interest?
I've broken mine, when I was in primary school.
I remember that.
Yeah. How did that happen?
We're in the playground playing a game called British Bulldog, and there's 2 versions to this story. One version is that I was being chased and somebody clipped my heel and sent me sliding across the concrete on the floor. The other version, Gaz, do you want to say what the other version? I think you were there, weren't you, Gaz?
I was obviously the person that he's on about that sent him flying across the floor. So, I sort of vaguely remember the incident. I do remember being blamed hugely after the event, and I was like, didn't touch you on her. I think he was just being clumsy and tripped over his own feet, if I'm honest, but that's my story. I'm sticking to it. But no, I mean, I was there, and obviously he did go sliding across the floor, and he did break his collarbone. So all these years later, if it was me that tripped him, I will apologise for that.
My God, that's taken about 39 years.
Still don't remember actually tripping him up, but if he says I did it, then fair enough.
But in all fairness, I have seen the photo of Gaz's. I mean, he called it a fracture. I mean, mine was a fracture, and it didn't actually completely come apart and overlap each other by about 3 inches. Which, by looking at Gaz's photo, that's kind of what's happened.
Yeah, so it basically fractured and then displaced. And after I came out of surgery, the surgeon said that there was a couple of bits sort of that were misaligned. So they said we've taken some bone fragments out from the collarbone as well, because they said there was nothing for them to basically set that back into. So they've taken a couple of bits out. They've reset it. They put a plate and a pin. What I'll do is when I've got the X-ray of it with the pin and the plate in place, because at the moment, obviously, you can see I've still got some padding on it. So I'll share a before and an after of the X-rays, and I think most people have probably seen the before X-ray. So yeah, I'll show you an after one.
Gaz, I was just sorry, Ad. I was just going to ask Gaz. Was it the BMX you were on that you kind of use week in, week out when you're doing your BMX stunts? Was that the one you were using? When you...
Yeah. So I'd been round. So I've been doing obviously part of our work at school. We take the kids out and stuff, and it wasn't even the first time I tried to jump, and it was like I'd done it before, and just one of those things sort of didn't quite make the jump and came off, sort of thing. So yeah, one of those, I'm afraid.
Not so much Matt Hoffman as Gaz Fall Off Man.
It's something like that, yeah. For 1 or 2 glorious seconds, though, I was Mr. sort of BMX stunt extremist until my back wheel decided to just hit the back of the jump, and it then tipped me off. So hey ho, many a ribbing has been had by myself from various people. So yeah, not to be yet repeated, I'm afraid.
And if you haven't seen Gaz's X-ray, guess what? It's actually going to be the cover art for this episode.
Yeah, so I say that if you haven't seen it, like lots of people have, it's that if you can count them, there are apparently 4 fractures in there, and actually there's a couple. The displaced fragments you can see because they're the ones that basically are sitting sort of vertically, and on the X-ray you can see them. So yeah, I'm sure you'll have fun looking at them.
Well, while you're here, Gaz, it seems worth mentioning as well, because we haven't talked NFL for quite a while now. So we're recording this on the 15th of February, I believe it is. So a couple of days after the Super Bowl. Did anybody watch it?
I didn't watch it live. I'd say the meds sort of knocked me out, and I was sort of in bed, sort of asleep. I watched the highlights after. Enjoyed it. There was a big furor around one of the calls that the refs made, which, and I disagreed with the call. I watched it back and didn't think it was a holding call, if I'm honest. Massively affected the game. I don't know whether you've seen it, Ad, or Dave, Andy, whether you've seen it, but I didn't think it was a hold, if I'm honest. And I thought that hugely affected the result.
Yeah, it was never a hold. It was never a hold. So I haven't seen the game. The only bit I've seen, I've watched the halftime show. So what do you think? Who do you think deserved it more then?
I think the Rams deserved to win it. I felt a bit sorry for the Bengals because they're a team that are obviously getting better, and over the last couple of seasons have sucked pretty badly, sort of thing. So fair play to them to get in there. But I think the Rams they deserved it. They've obviously gone all in with Matt Stafford, haven't they? They've sort of eggs all in one basket and traded quite a lot to get him. So fair play to them. I think they had a little bit of home court advantage, obviously, because of their stadium. The crowd, they said, was 50-50, but I'm not sure. It always helps playing in an environment that doesn't it? So I think they were deserved winners a little bit. I think the no call helped, but it is what it is.
Well, you say a home crowd, but the average price of the ticket was $6,500. That was the average price. Yeah. Some of them went sky high, but I think pretty much every ticket was 4 figures. It's crazy money to go and see that game. I know there was a few jokes. All the Bengals have had 33 years to save up for that kind of money. But it seems a little bit harsh. I wouldn't want to pay that. But you've got to say fair play to Matt Stafford. He's a guy who stuck it out. And he had 10 years playing for some bloody awful team. Who was that team he played for again, though? That was it. The Detroit Lions. That was it. Yeah, that's a team that have never, ever seen a Super Bowl in their existence.
They taught him well.
They did. Yeah, they did. They did. He had a lot of experience of losing, God bless him. But that brings us on to our bet, or the hashtag Feed a Podcaster, because we had a little bet at the start of this season, didn't we? About which team was going to do worse. And as it turns out, rather, as we didn't expect would be the case, it was the Detroit Lions, who finished with a rather sort of woeful record of 3-13-1. The Bears 6-11, and the Steelers 9-7-1. The only team that actually made the playoffs. So, Andy, where are we going? What are you treating us to?
Looking forward to this.
I've recently cut the grass, so I'll just fry it up and. Now you're vegetarian.
Put a rub on it and we'll be fine. It'll be all right.
That's it, yeah. Bit of reload.
Oh, you could actually eat it, I bet, with reload.
He probably could. That's we've pushed that back, folks. So if you're listening to this now, we should be recording an episode. Actually, episode 109 should feature Todd and Johnny from the Toddcast, but it's not. We've had to push it back. So once Gaz is a little bit better, because he can't be cooking anyway. If anybody knows anything about him, he's a pot of noodles is about as much as you can muster. He can't be cooking up a steak. Harsh but fair, Dave.
Cheese on toast.
Yeah, he can do a cheese on toast. We can't be cooking up. He's not going to enjoy it half as much. So I spoke to Todd and Johnny last week, who both send their regards, by the way. I've sent them on the X-ray as well, so they can they can see that it's a genuine concern, and they both send their regards to you and are quite happy to push it back till later in the year. So that's one we'll look forward to. But yeah, we've tried all the reload rubs now. All 6 between us, we've tried them, and the 7th is the Magnum, and that's the one we're going to taste test live on the podcast. We're going to cook up some steak, vegan steak in my case. Tesco doing a lovely vegan steak. I don't know what's in it, but I know what's not in it. So I'm looking forward to trying that one. So Super Bowl then. I'll involve a little bit of something with the other guys, obviously, because Andy's a Detroit Lions fan, so NFL isn't his thing. Dave, you're not an NFL fan at all, are you, really?
No, it's a bit like rugby and fancy dress.
With pads.
Yeah, we'll send those comments on to Matt Stafford for you. So, the halftime show, people are talking about this as being one of the best halftime shows in a long, long time. Anybody catch that one?
I've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it, yeah.
Enjoy it?
I thought the start and the end bit was good. I wasn't a big fan of the people in the middle, but no, it's a good show. Like, I think back to the last few, like Timberlake and I can't remember last year. But anyway, yeah,
it was decent. I enjoyed it.
That's how good it was last year. I can't remember.
There was obviously a bit of a sort of a mashup of various sort of eras, wasn't there? You got Snoop and Eminem, and then Dre and all. And it was decent. I enjoyed it. I mean, Eminem was pretty cool. He obviously defied the NFL and knelt, didn't he? Because they asked him not to kneel, and he did. So controversy obviously follows that guy. And Snoop was pretty interesting pre-show. If you've seen the clips going around on social media, how he decided to warm up for his little set. Let's just say he was enjoying a little bit of the sweet leaf. So that was quite cool. But no, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I thought the whole thing was pretty cool. Decent. Decent game. Not the best game. Certainly not the worst Super Bowl I've seen. But yeah, decent. Enjoyed it.
So going back to the halftime show, then one of the highlights for me is, I love. I'm not a big fan of Jordans, I'll be honest, but I love a pair of trainers or sneakers, as you may call them in the US. But did you get a look at his Jordans that he was wearing?
The Slim Shadys.
Oh, dude. They are currently a one-off pair, but they need to be put into production. I need that in my sneaker collection.
How big is your sneaker collection?
I had to thin it out when we moved house, to be honest with you. The wife was quite... So there's probably about 40 or 50 pairs at the moment.
40 or 50?
Yeah.
Do you wear them, or are they literally just...
Oh, no, so I don't like wearing some of them because I don't want to get them dirty.
Just walks around the house.
Yeah. I'm not allowed to wear shoes in the house. No, because I wouldn't sell them. The investment implies that you will sell them on for money at some point. I suppose once I'm dead, someone can sell them. Oh, it's wasteful. Yeah, it's wasteful, but it's nice to have them. They're under the bed. Lift them up, have a look at them every now and then. No, there's a chance of rain. They're going back away.
You need to follow the. I don't know whether you already follow her on Twitch. I think it's Brenda Weber, and she's a Bears fan. She loves sports. She's a Bears fan. She's a Bulls fan, but she posts loads of photos about trainers or sneakers and stuff. So she's got like a huge collection of them, and she's like, can't pass a store without going into and buying one sort of thing. So you need to have a look for her on Twitter, because she literally is like sneaker central sort of thing. She's got loads and loads of decent sort of pairs. So
I tell you who else is as well, Sal Vulcano in Practical Jokers.
Okay.
big Pittsburgh Steelers fan. He's got a massive, massive collection. I can't compete with his. Honestly, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Speaking of him in Practical Jokers, did you see Joe Gatto's left? Have you seen Joe Gatto's left in Practical Jokers?
No, I didn't know that. No.
Do you watch that show, Dave?
No, never heard of it.
Bloody hellfire!
What's it about?
It's basically now 3 guys in New York, and they basically do it's sort of hidden camera. They go out and act like idiots and just get a reaction off the general public. I find it very entertaining, but yeah, really disappointed to hear that Joe Gatto's left. All the best to him, obviously. He's left, but obviously, unfortunately, he is separated from his wife, and he wants to basically focus his time on co-parenting. That said, and then about 3 days later, he just said, "Oh, by the way, I'm launching this new podcast, Two Cool Moms, and then I'm also writing a screenplay." So I don't know how genuine his reasons for leaving are, but fair play to him. But yeah, really, really disappointed to see that. The other thing I wanted to mention, Gaz, while you're on, as you may have noticed if you're watching this on YouTube, we've got some rather lovely red roses sat here in front of me. Valentine's Day. It was also Valentine's Day yesterday. Now, I asked these guys, I asked Dave and I asked Andy, because I didn't think Gaz was going to be here, but I asked them for any funny Valentine's Day stories that they have. What were both your responses?
I think it was something along the lines of not something I've bothered with for at least 20 years.
Andy?
Not something I bothered with for 10 years. Nice. I show my love 365 days a year. Don't need one day.
There's an image.
I was kind of bothered with it. It's funny, actually. Me and my missus alternate who gets a card. So I bought her one randomly last year. I don't know why I did. I probably saw it at the petrol station or something like that. And this year she bought me one. And I think the last 4 years we've done that. Just alternate who gets a card.
Actually, funny enough, Dave told me a very similar story about him and his brother. It wasn't a Valentine's Day card, obviously, but you know,
a birthday card. We were nagged by our respective wives. You have to send a card to your brother, and so we sent one. And the next year, he sent it back. So it had to Dave and Steve at the top, and we'd put a tick or a cross, and then rub it out and change it over. And over the years, it then had from David and Catherine, David, Catherine and Alice, David, Catherine, Alice and Albert, and the same name, the names of my nephew and niece were added, and it went backward and forward for it was over 15 years, and then it got lost. It was back and forward to America as well, where they now live. So it started in the UK, then went backward and forward to America. My mum we wouldn't pay for postage. When my mum or my Steve's mother-in-law would go over to visit, it would go with them in a suitcase and then come back.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that is cool.
Cost
effective.
Yeah, very cost effective. Very cost effective. But I also asked Gaz, you know, this Valentine's Day's been a bit of a sucky one for you, hasn't it? Because you're not been able to get out and get anything. So
yeah, I mean, I ordered sort of flowers and stuff. So Jenny's had some flowers sort of delivered. But in terms of sort of card and stuff, we do normally sort of send cards, and Jenny got me a card for this year, and it is something that we normally do. But so I felt proper guilty this year not getting a card. I mean, obviously she's had flowers and stuff delivered because that's relatively straightforward. But yeah, we're not going out, literally, like not been out the house for however many weeks, sort of 2.5, 3 weeks, sort of thing. So yeah, but we normally do. We would normally, whether it's on Valentine's Day or it's that weekend, slightly prior or post, we would have perhaps got for a meal somewhere or whatever. So, but quite a few years ago, there wasn't a Valentine's Day that we weren't we darting on a Valentine's Day. So that's one of the stories to do with Valentine's Day, wasn't it? So
yeah, 100%, dude. You're right on the money. When we did our Guinness World Record, which we don't talk about much, we don't mention it often, although it got mentioned last episode as well. It was done over Valentine's Day weekend. It didn't make us very popular. No. I had another story though to share with you. So a couple of years ago, I got a text off John, basically saying this is early January time, saying there's a guy. Are you guys familiar with John Shuttleworth, by the way? The comedian and musician.
I don't think so.
Basically, he's a guy. He did a show called, I think it was 400 Bus Stops or something like that, or 500 Bus Stops. And basically, he's a guy who portrays an old chap who plays music, and it's terrible music, but it is quite entertaining and quite funny at the same time. Now, Kim had seen it and doesn't find it in the least bit funny. And John had texted me and said, listen, he's going to be in Newcastle in February. If I get tickets for the four of us, because he was on about him and his wife at the same time, you know, are you interested in coming? I was like, yeah, awesome. So anyway, tickets came through and it was Valentine's Day. So it was like, nice one, Kim. So we're going to see this guy that you hate. But the good news is we don't see enough of John and Vicky, you know, John and his wife. We hardly ever get to see them. So it'll be nice to spend some quality time with them. Get there on the way. Got a text just as we're pulling up at the 30. Yeah, not feeling too good, mate. We're not going to make it tonight. Nice one, John. Cheers, mate. So Valentine's Day, it's like, well, we're here. We might as well go. And actually, she found it relatively funny. Fast forward a couple of years later, and we're looking for Valentine's Day presents to get it. As you like say, I do. Unlike you two guys, I do always get some of like these red roses here. If you're watching on YouTube, or from me to the wife. Not
do you buy Kim flowers, like the same flowers around a third of the price throughout the year?
I will buy her flowers throughout the year. Yeah, just randomly pick up a bunch of flowers every now and then if I'm in the doghouse or something.
There's a churchyard down the road, isn't there?
That's it. Church down the road. Yeah, God bless him, yeah. Dust those little blue and green stones off them and bring them along. Yeah, but a couple of years later, I was looking at what to get, and as it turned out, John Shuttleworth, again about 4 years later, was actually at the Vic Theatre in Newcastle, same place. I thought, you know what, this would be funny. I'll get her tickets to this because, you know, she won't top this one. So anyway, but exchanging Valentine's Day gifts. So I open up the card. So she opens the card, tickets in. She's like, nice one, like, you know, brilliant. Thanks for that. And I open up the box, and what she's bought me a light bulb that was on the Las Vegas sign when we were there when we got married. So actually, when we were there on a honeymoon, you know, we'd been to see the sign. That bulb was there on the light, and it's put in a presentation box. Must have cost a fortune. I bought her tickets to a comedian that she hates.
Valentine's Day tick.
Yeah, it's a present.
Exactly. It's the thought that counts, dude, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, on that sort of theme, then Netflix released a TV show. Has anybody watched The Tinder Swindler yet?
I haven't. I've seen it advertised. It's something that I thought maybe I might catch up with at some point. I haven't seen it yet, but I have seen it advertised.
What about you two guys? Have you watched it?
Never heard it.
No. Oh, dude. Are you familiar with Tinder? He asks gently.
Tinder.
I've heard of it.
Oh, the dating app thing.
Mm.
Yeah.
Very casual response. I'm suspicious already.
Where's my phone?
well, this is a guy, and basically he's pulled a Ponzi scheme on a whole load of women. So he basically blags money off one woman to then spend on the next, and then they're convinced that he's some wealthy guy. So when he then asks them for money, they are therefore convinced that they're going to get it back. And he's done this to a number of people. And one woman, she was out $250,000, and she's taken out 9 bank loans. Honestly, if you've not seen it, I apologise for spoiling it there. But yeah, shocking, absolutely shocking.
So is it a series or a film or a drama?
It's a documentary. It's real. And the guy, I think he ended up serving 5 months for it, which doesn't seem particularly long for swindling people out of money. And he's out and he's doing it again. He is on Tinder right now. So Dave, be careful swiping left.
Why swiping left?
I don't know. Is it swipe left or right? I don't know.
You see, he backtracked quite quickly there, didn't he? You know what I mean?
Yeah, he did. He's acting very coy.
Right, on that note, guys, I'm going to love and leave you. So it's been great to catch up and chat, and then hopefully I'll see you in a couple of weeks. So been good and all that. Catch you later, guys. Been great back amongst you. So have fun for the next sort of half hour, whatever it is, maybe left, and catch you all soon.
That's what, dude.
Cheers. See you guys.
Cheers.
Care, cheers.
So wait while he figures out how to exit the call. So we wanted to get Dave back on, and we were going to have Dave on as a guest in March, weren't we? But then you kindly volunteered your services because Dave's done you've done a few episodes where you asked us a few tough questions, and I think you've got something planned for the next episode as well.
I've got a few questions, yeah.
Yeah, so you asked us we promised you a nice, gentle, easy one, didn't we, last time, and then got into racism in cricket and all sorts of things. So we're going to do our best to avoid that tonight. But wow, what about that Kurt Zouma, eh?
The cat kicker.
The cat kicker, yeah. What do you make of all that?
Oh, it's not good, is it? It really isn't. I mean, it kind of leaves you speechless. That somebody would do that in the first place, terrorize a cat and kick a cat. And it wasn't a full-on like he's taking a penalty. It was more of a sort of a lob, but nonetheless, he was still booting the cat across the kitchen. But then he's got his brother filming it, and then it ends up on the internet. I mean, it's just bad in every sense. And then West Ham's response, I know there's a big argument that says you shouldn't punish the club and all the other players and all the other fans because of one guy's stupidity. But then somebody else is saying, well, you're just condoning it if you do it. So I think it's just terrible. There's no positives that come from that, is there?
No, there's not. What was your take on it, Andy? Just out of interest.
I find it a weird one. Normally, like if someone done it, you say, fine them. I don't know about jail term, but just ban him from having animals. But then, because he's a high-profile person as well, it's sort of. I think people are giving him a harsher thing, but you know what I mean, like more stick for it because he's more visible. I don't know. I don't know what the best course of action would be. I think no matter what you do, someone's gonna be not happy with it. Like you jail him, and other people are gonna be upset. You ban him from playing football, other people are upset, and I don't know. I think just fine him, make him donate to charity and stuff, and not let him have animals again.
Yeah, I think that's a fair response. I find it a bit peculiar. Like you say, the circumstances in which it was shared and everything, and also the laws around cats are a little bit strange. I was looking into this. Now, obviously, you can't be mistreating them. I'm all for having the animals taken off. I'm all for them being punished and everything like that. But did you know it is okay to shoot a cat with an air rifle if they're damaging your property? If they're like, say, for example, if you have an L-shaped sofa in your back garden and it's covering it all in bloody fur and scratching it like I have, and like we've got a cat that does it to us. So this is why I was Googling it, like, are you okay to shoot cats with an air rifle? And turns out I don't get me wrong, listen, I'm a vegetarian. It wasn't a serious thing. I wasn't actually planning on doing it, although it did cross my mind. But it actually is okay. And do you know why? Because
pest control?
No, because cats, although they are animals and pets and what have you, they're classed as property. So it is okay to criminally damage something that is criminally damaging your property. So that's a bit of a juxtaposition against, and don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating cruelty to animals. I'm not advocating shooting. Don't go and shoot cats on my say so, please. If you do so, Google it first, just in case I got it wrong. I'm only joking. But in all seriousness, don't you think that's a bit strange that that's okay to do that, but you can't kick them? And don't kick them. That's another thing you shouldn't do. I'm not making light of this, but I just think it's unusual how there's one rule for one situation and one for another.
I'm not sure though. You said there might be different rules in a sense, but if he'd have filmed himself firing an air rifle at some cats in the garden, which had been filmed and uploaded in the same way, I'm not sure the response would be better. Just because
it'd be worse, wouldn't it?
Your Googling says it's legal.
Yeah, but it'd be worse, though, wouldn't it? If you shoot cats,
yeah.
It's far worse. And I just find that unusual. I find that unusual that my point being that it's wrong to do either. But I find it that one of them is justifiable when the other one isn't, and the one that is justifiable is actually far, far worse than what he was doing.
Which one's justifiable?
Shooting a cat. No, I'm not saying it's justifiable. I'm just saying in the eyes of the law, I'm not justifying it. I'm saying in the eyes of the law, it is justified. Whereas in actuality, it's far, far worse than giving it a kick. And like you say, you want like booting the hell out of it. Any level of kicking is wrong.
He slapped it though as well, didn't he?
I've not seen. I'll be honest, I've not seen any of the footage. I don't like animal cruelty at all.
It goes on top of the counter, and he just like hand fully back and just go woof, slaps it off the counter. But yeah, we got this week's soundbite anyway from what he just said.
No, it's all.
Like you can shoot a cat.
Yeah,
it's justifiable.
Justified, yeah, that's it. This is one of those things. If I was Joe Rogan, I'd be in trouble for this, I tell you.
Well, that was the most caveated 90 seconds ever. Like more words you spoke were denying the words that came just before in that entire sentence.
I dug myself a pretty big hole as I went into that, didn't I?
You kept going as well.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and I'm still trying to do it now. I'm still trying to backtrack and get out of it. But no, I just find it strange. It's wrong on every level. Both sets of examples that I just gave. I just find it bizarre, absolutely bizarre, that actually is something that could be justified in the eyes of the law, not by Tallboy Radio. But let's make that very clear. We're not advocates of either. Speaking of Tallboy Radio, I got a very exciting conversation off an individual a couple of weeks ago now, and I'm still waiting to hear back. He contacted me and he'd listened to the History of Haunting podcast that we did last year, I think it was, early part of last year, and has asked if he can use it on an internet radio station. So Sonnet Radio are interested in using one of our podcasts, fortunately not this one, on internet radio, but with a view to a recorded introduction to it. It gets a weekly slot on the internet radio, and then we do a series 2 of it involving the three of us. Sorry, not you, Dave. I apologise. Probably should have done this when Gaz was on. But involving the three of us. And actually, look at, because the best part of it is Gaz buys into it. I'm a little bit sceptical. Andy is an absolute no. Things like that aren't real. Where do you stand on things such as hauntings and ghosts and what have you? I fear I probably know.
I'm well with the Andy camp here. To be honest, it's all a load of nonsense. It's unfortunately I'm very much in the. Well, no, I'm not going. I was going to say if you can't prove it, then it doesn't exist. But then you'll just go on and say there's loads of things you can't prove that you sure I accept as fact. So just pretend I didn't say that.
Okay, I've just told you it's okay to shoot a cat, and you took my word for it.
Well, I did caveat that by saying if you trust Adam's Googling.
Yeah, but I think that would be cool if we could get an internet radio slot and hopefully get Tallboy Radio in via the back door. That'd be quite cool, wouldn't it?
Especially if you get a follow up episode, to come back and do it again. That would be pretty awesome, really.
Well, yeah, they're looking at doing the whole sort of second series on there and having a weekly slot on an internet radio station. I think that'd be phenomenal. So Sonnet Radio, I think they're based locally. The guy who contacted me is actually based in Crewe, and I spoke to him about getting him on this podcast because he also has another group called Spirit Cheshire. I don't know if you've ever seen any of their stuff on YouTube.
No, it's not something I'd look for, really.
No, but he's so a couple of the places that we did the podcast about. So the Lyceum Theatre in Crewe, and then obviously we're looking at the Old Hall in Sandbach, and then we said we could do this podcast from there as well at some point, and the Bait Hall in Macclesfield. So they've visited these places and done videos, and have picked up some spooky goings on. Where whether they've seen anybody's ghoulies, I don't know, but it was something that we were open to see. But I think that's quite exciting.
So are you joining it as some sort of supernatural ghosting experts?
Listen, I've got a business card somewhere that says Pickford and Dickinson parapsychologists, investigators / consultants on it.
You leave the car keys in a bowl and go looking for ghoulies.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. I tell you, if I turn up with my dog collar, like the guy from what's that film? Poltergeist, the vicar in it in Poltergeist. Yeah, he got probably taken a bit more seriously than me for some reason.
I think it's an excellent thing to do.
I'd love to be able to do it.
I mean, why not? It's a bit of fun, or it's something serious, or it's something you can take the mickey out of. But it ticks 3 boxes, doesn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely does. I have to move these flowers out of the way; they're getting on my nerves. Sorry. Yeah, I think so. It's just the opportunity to get ourselves onto internet radio. We're always looking for different avenues to get Tallboy Radio out there. In Allsage, we've got a beer and gin festival coming up as well, and we're going to be sponsoring a barrel there. I was hoping to get some You've Been Framed money off last week's episode, actually, because we submitted the footage of Lisa falling off the chair onto You've Been Framed. She actually did it twice, didn't she, Andy?
Oh, yeah. It was like, I still don't understand the one. Yeah.
I did show it to the kids, and they found it very funny. But it was what made it really funny, in a sort of not at the time, was that nobody knew if she was okay, because it seemed like for ages before she actually said anything, and you were genuinely concerned on your face, Adam.
Well, she was down for quite a while, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Like ages.
When she got back up, she said she was trying to put the chair leg back on.
Yeah.
But at the time, like, we didn't know that. It was like,
Are you okay?
Let's end the call.
Yeah, so we ended the call, and just as we were ending it, the chair went again. Well, no, I sent the footage off to you being framed, but sadly they're not interested in it, which I think is a shame. So that'd been a nice 250 quid that I'd have paid for the barrel of beer.
Did they say why?
No, they just said we're not interested, but we're not giving you a specific reason why, which I thought was a little unusual, a little bit disappointing. I was hoping they'd take it up.
Yeah. It's not from the 90s though, is it? It's not all blurry and it says 93 in the top corner.
That's true, yeah. Although I don't know, I can't remember what I was wearing, but it probably looked like it came out of the 90s. It's like the shirt that I've got on tonight. But yeah, so we're going to be sponsoring a barrel of beer at the Cricket Club. Hopefully, I'm not sure when it is, July. Hopefully Andy can come over for that, and we'll maybe get some sound bites recorded. And Dave, if you want to come and join us, you'd be more than welcome to get some beer down here if you're drinking by then.
I might be. I haven't decided yet when I'm gonna go back. We were supposed to be doing this long walk on Saturday, but I bust my knee playing football. So we're supposed to do this. It's only a 30-mile walk, me and the wife, and then after that we come back and have a drink. But we now postponed it to like the end of March. So I haven't decided yet whether I'm sticking with Saturday or waiting till March. Or to be honest, I might just not. I don't particularly miss it, actually. Don't look at me like that.
Oh, I'm trying to get my head around that. Can you? I know Andy can't understand that statement.
What, they're not drinking?
Yeah, what's the
longest? I'm still in shock.
I know. What's the longest you have? Probably nearer 30 minutes for Andy, I imagine, than 30 days. What's the longest you've gone without having a beer, dude?
A week. These last few years.
I've
been drinking whiskey and wine instead.
Yeah.
So this is what, probably 36 days now, I guess, if it's the 15th. And that's, I would imagine, the longest since I started drinking. I can never remember not drinking for any period of time before. Or maybe I might have done towards when the kids were being born. But 36 days now, it's probably longer. It's probably less than that. It's probably like the last 3 or 4 weeks. So it's probably the longest I've not drank for, I was going to say 40 years then, but that would mean I was drinking when I was 8, but for 30 years, 32 years, something like that.
Bloody hell, fair play. I can't see myself doing anything like that. To be fair, I've done, what is it, this 15th, so it's 46 days without meat I've done. And I tell you what, I'm not even slightly missing it. I feel healthier for doing it. I know Andy's judging me on that one as well.
So what's the reason before going back to vegetarian?
Yeah, just for health reasons. Just for health reasons, lose a little bit of weight. I'm not sure I've lost it. No, a bit, yeah. This doesn't help, does it? You know what I mean? Drinking beer, which is probably like Andy will now point out to me, has been the fining process involves fish guts.
It doesn't have all the Haribos and stuff as well.
I've cut all them out now because I don't think they're vegetarian. So something else that we needed to update people, and I should have done it when Gaz was on actually, because we mentioned Guinness World Records then. So we're still waiting to hear from one of our Guinness World Records that we did, which was the doubles 2 years ago now, actually. Coming up to 2 years ago, we did it just before the pandemic. Really, it was just before the country went into lockdown. We did it, and literally about the week before. But we've registered for a third Guinness World Record, which is trebles, which we're going to do to raise some money for disability darts. And we're going to get Radway Club kitted out. I know Big Gray's looked into getting a disabled toilets put in, and Jed McPhee, we're going to, obviously, we're raising the money to pay for his flexiboard system. We're going to get some of those put in, really make a bit of a difference. But in the meantime, in the interim, we are sorry to see Double Trouble no longer trading, aren't we, Andy?
Oh, yeah. think I've just finished their last bottle of whiskey I bought off them. I think I've got a bottle of rum left, and that's it. It's a sad time.
Yeah, it is. It is. I've got a bottle of whiskey and a bottle of gin sat here for when Bo comes. He wants to try both of those. And to be honest, I've done bloody well not to tuck into either of them. And obviously, Dave, you tried their beer. They were good beers as well, weren't they?
Yeah, they were all right. Perfectly drinkable beers. Yeah. I mean, what's the reason? Just not enough sales, or too much going on, or other stuff going on in their lives.
Well, I think this is the thing. They both work full time. They both got very, very busy jobs. Both got young children, so that a lot of the time was taken up with stuff like that. But I think they sort of were finding that when they released a new product, they'd shift a whole load of bottles and a whole load of products. But in between, there wasn't that much, which is a shame. And we were talking to them when we went up in September time. Scott said then, actually, we may knock it on the head at Christmas unless sort of the sales pick up and we really do something. And obviously, they sold a fair bit at the darts that we went to, but unfortunately, have decided subsequently to call it a day. Now, Dave bought it. Not you, Dave. Just to clarify, he said one of the things. Not you again. No.
It's twice. He said, black balls.
But that's not what you do with your balls is none of my business. Listen, he said like one of the things he'd missed most was coming on this podcast and chatting. So we said, look, don't be daft. We're still going to have you on. We'll still get you on talking about darts in the future. But I messaged him and I've added Dave and Scott to our trebles record that we're going to be attempting. So we said it would be an 8-man team, and the 8-man team we used last time, and Andy's obviously going to be holding it all together as a podcast. Which, Dave, you can bring your black balls back out again if you want to get involved with that and help Andy hold the fort and podcast if you'd like.
No, I can definitely come down and do a stint. I mean, how long is it on? I don't think I did the whole thing. How long is it on for?
24 hours.
Oh, is that all? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not too bad. And actually, we on top of that, though, as we were speaking to, after we recorded last week's episode, we were chatting to Mike and Tabby, weren't we, from the Happy Hour podcast? And they're doing a Guinness World Record for the longest podcast. And we're going to be a part of that. We're in the vinegar strokes, as it were, Andy. We're towards the end of that podcast. We come on towards the end, so that'd be quite nice to hopefully join them as they get that record.
How long is that for?
36 hours.
Non-stop?
Non-stop, yeah. So it's a
lot. No. 2 of them?
3. There's 3 guys on that podcast.
Crikey. Yeah, and the alternate, getting different guests on as well throughout the time sort of thing. So yeah.
So yeah, we've got the last guest slot. Obviously, we're affected by the time zones and what have you, because we've done quite a few podcasts recently with American guests, and it gets a bit tiring, doing it at that time of night. We guested on Happy Hour. And what time we started that one midnight? It was about 3:00 when we got to bed. Then me and Andy were at Van Gogh Museum the following day. It was quite knackering. And then we had them on last week, Designated Quizzes and Happy Hour. I started at 10. Tiddy and Shiner the week before, we started at 11:30 at night. So it's quite nice to be sat down here at 8:00, to be honest with you, starting. Or just after. Thanks, Dave.
Sorry about that. A few minutes, mate.
Oh no, I'm only joking. But yeah, that's where we are with those world records. Hopefully, we'll hear soon. We'll be able to update you on the doubles one. That has dragged on. A lot of it's been down to COVID and what have you. But how do you guys feel now about those restrictions lifting? What are your thoughts on that?
As in all of them potentially going out the window completely.
Pretty much from March, from March, which is next month, you got COVID. It's okay, just go into work. How do you guys feel about that?
It's difficult. I mean, half of you says it's got to happen sooner or later. It might be pretty contagious, but is it any more harmful than things like the flu or really bad cold? And half of you thinks, well, it's still a bit daft. There's still a lot of people around that have not had it at all that could get quite ill from it. I've been in the office today, and I think during COVID we had really strict rules, but now it's kind of voluntary whether you wear a mask. There was myself and 2 others that were wearing a mask when we were away from our desks. Everybody else was as though nothing's any different than normal. So yeah, it's difficult, but I think on balance, I think it's probably the right decision, and I think people generally will be more careful. perhaps they otherwise would for at least a few more months. And as long as we don't get another variant, it probably would turn out to be the right decision in the end.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. What about yourself, Andy?
Well, I think ever since last year, the first year, obviously, lockdowns were probably necessary, whatever. But I think from last year, it should have just been a case of just check regularly before you go out somewhere. Just do a little check. I know they're not 100%, but at least if you're showing a symptom or you're positive, then just don't go out. And I think that's probably the way they should keep going forward with it. I'm back in. I've started a new job and I'm back in the office for a couple of days a week, and yeah, it's back to normal. The way I see people out in town and stuff like that, bumping into each other and stuff. I think you need to just get the economy going and stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you, dude. I'm with you. And I know you say, Dave, about another variant, but I think the truth of the matter is, in all likelihood, what we've seen and what the evidence suggests is there's always going to be another variant. And at some point, we can stay at home and we can hide and we can live in fear and that part of it. And some people have a right and a need to be fearful. If they're at risk, then definitely they need to be precautious. And like Andy says, if we're doing regular tests, then that's probably the best that we can do. But we need a degree of normality. I was at a gig actually, not last week, week before. Bill messaged me, our good friend Bill, who puts us in touch with James, friend of the show. We went to see a lad called Jamie Webster. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
No.
No. I'll be dead honest, I hadn't either. But like Bill's like, dude, he's like number one in the Spotify album charts. Like, I'll take your word for it, mate. I ain't listened to anything in the charts for the last 20 years. But yeah, it was good, and it was like it didn't exist, dude. Because there was, I don't know how many people there. It was a fairly small venue, Sugar Mill in Hanley. And this is a guy who, like I say, if he's number one album in Spotify, he's probably going to go on to do bigger gigs than that. And to be in a bunch, of a crowd of people, and actually briefly found myself in a mosh pit as well, which was quite. Scary at the same time, because my knees, they don't all up as like they used to. But there was a part of me, just for a second, felt like I was in my 20s again, and it was really quite nice, full of beer and in the mosh pit, and wasn't familiar with any of the tunes, unfortunately. But he was a pretty decent musician. But I enjoyed it, and just to have that feeling of normality. I tell you what, it felt nice. It feels nice to be able to go into a shop not wearing a mask, and you're sort of seeing less and less people wearing them now. And I just feel that now's the time to get back to normal. So that leads us on then to Joe Rogan. Then, what do you guys make of that situation? Obviously, let's avoid the video of him using the N-word. Let's take that out of the equation, because I think that goes a little bit deeper. We want to keep it a little bit lighter and upbeat. But the fact that he's been criticised for sharing a different version of events to what the government would like him to, and the criticism he's facing, the likes of Neil Young and Joni Mitchell pulling their music off Spotify. What do you guys make of that situation?
You might have to give me a little bit more context, because I've only seen the headline, and the headline, of course, will be portrayed by the media, and that in itself will have its own view. But the way I heard it, and this is where you have to correct me, was that he basically was passing fake news about COVID vaccinations, and that's why he was taken off air, because he was spreading disinformation, which was endangering people's lives, or however you want to extend that through to his listeners.
Yeah, I think the problem was the misinformation that he was accused of spreading was not the misinformation that the government spreads, and that was the problem. Now, in all seriousness, basically, he had doctors on who had a different narrative to that which the government was, in terms of how it's treated. The efficacy of masks, the efficacy of vaccines. Obviously, he's had the guy on who helped to develop the vaccine, and is obviously now banned from Twitter for voicing his opinion on the way it's been used. And, and this is seen the likes of Novak Djokovic criticised. And that's effectively what he's done. So it's not necessarily misinformation. Like you say, that's the media's spin on it.
It's
or
more subjective stuff, things that there isn't black
Yeah.
and white. It's just not quite the line that the government would like us, or the American government would like us to follow.
Exactly. He's brought, and I think this has been missing from, and we understand why the Trusted Media Act has been brought in, so that the media is only allowed to share the government's directive and share their voice on it. And what he's done is done the opposite. That he isn't part of that Trusted Media Act, and obviously he's in the States anyway. But he's done what I think everybody needs. He needs if there's just one narrative, I think it's dangerous. I think if you can give people and stop taking people for idiots. There are plenty of idiots out there, don't get me wrong. We've just had a conversation about whether it's okay to shoot cats. The people need to be given both sides of the story and be allowed to make up their own mind. And I think that's the route he's taken, whereas the government want us or need us, depending on your opinion, to go down one route. And that is ultimately why he's been criticised. And the likes of Neil Young, I don't know. As Big Titty put it when he spoke about it, woke folk cancelling themselves. He wanted his stuff taken off Spotify. Otherwise, well, you know what? Take my music off. Don't get me wrong. I saw there was a lovely moment there when I realised that Neil Young was still alive. I thought, that's nice. I thought he passed away some years ago. But when 2019, that year when all the bloody celebrity died, I thought that was the year it took him down as well. So it was nice to hear.
I don't like Neil Young, so that wouldn't bother me. But I do quite like Joni Mitchell. So
yeah, she's done a couple of good tunes, but yeah, she's gone down that same route as well. And I just think people need to hear different sides of a story.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, and if it was the narrative of or the argument that the male masks has always been one for debate. Do they really help? Don't they help? Do they actually make things worse because people are constantly touching it with their face and spreading things around? Does it protect you? Does it protect other people, etc., etc.? And that I think is still subjective. There's no black and white, clear cut, overwhelming evidence one way or another. But if he's saying things like, 10% of people that have the vaccine are the left arm's going to drop off. If it's stuff like that, then that's I think a completely different thing. But if it's subjective stuff where there isn't clear proven evidence one way or another, then absolutely I think you should be able to discuss that. And I think it's wrong to nanny state people by forcing one narrative, even if you think that you're doing it for the greater good. I think it's just wrong, because I think it sets a dangerous precedent, and it sets us up for society where the thought police are controlling everything you do. It starts small, and it could just grow over time, and it could be used and abused more and more. So I think it should be allowed, and it shouldn't just be cut off like that.
So would you like to see the Trusted Media Act repealed?
I think if it's more open to abuse than the good it's trying to do, then yeah, it's probably not healthy, is it?
No,
but then you think of the sort of stuff that Donald Trump would say, when he just out and out lie. And I know some people might say that about other leaders of countries, but the way he used to do it, in the vile way he used to say it, and you think, well, is he right that he does those things when he says those things when he's in a position of authority or when he's got such a platform? And you say, well, no, it needs to be policed, because if you get to a position of influence and you're just actually peddling completely bad stuff, then you end up with somebody like Hitler. And so there's got to be some control, but it's a very fine line, I think, between control and the freedom to express opinions.
So did either of you guys sign a petition going around then to stop Boris Johnson from lying in the House of Commons? Because there was one. The Labour Party has started a petition on change.org or whatever it is to stop Boris Johnson from lying in Parliament, where he literally just stands up, like does a Trump effectively, says what the hell he likes, and sits back down again and doesn't seem to get challenged.
It's part of being a politician, isn't it?
Well, it's funny enough, actually. I must have thought when I first saw it pop up in my email box, I thought, That's pretty much what they all do, isn't it? I think if you believe anything that comes out of your mouths, then you're the one who needs probably to be bloody questioned.
I think politicians it's a very difficult role, and the Prime Minister more so, because if you know that whatever you say is going to be twisted and distorted and used against you, whatever it is you say, by the media, and by social media. So you're always, and that's a problem in itself, because it basically curtails almost the freedom of speech of politicians. That sounds a bit perverse, but they're not allowed to speak their mind, because there'll be somebody, could be 30% of the population on whatever subject they say, that will just lambast them and have a go at them. So it terrifies politicians into not wanting to speak their mind and be honest, because it's going to backfire and cause them problems. And it gets to the extent where they end up trying to answer questions with riddles or gibberish, or not necessarily out and out lies, but so economical with the truth and so misrepresenting what they're actually saying that it does sound like a lie. But nearly always, they're probably not. If you took it word for word on a piece of paper and read it, it's probably not a lie if you took it in the context of everything. But it comes across like that. And I think part of it is just that they're, on the whole, so terrified that it's just going to be twisted and distorted and used against them.
You could be right there. You could be right. I certainly think in Boris's case, he is a master of that. When he lost his place, did you see when he lost his place? We were speaking about the trade deals that they were doing, and rambled on for about 2 minutes about Peppa Pig World.
Yeah, but it was a good point. He was just talking about the freedom and options and opportunity that you have in Peppa Pig World, and he sees that replicated throughout the UK.
Yeah. It's funny enough, I was at my mum's today, and I was asked a very strange question about Peppa Pig. So she sat there, and like JJ had insisted on having Peppa Pig on. I don't want people to think my mum watches Peppa Pig while she's there by herself. So she sat there and she watched it. She said, "What's George's sister called in Peppa Pig?" Peppa. God bless her. God bless her.
Know that.
Oh, come on, dude. How old are your kids? I know they've grown out of Peppa Pig a few years now, but you must be familiar with it.
13 and 14. I don't remember watching it greatly.
Oh, you lucky bastard. Andy, you've got this to come, mate.
Nah, we're avoiding that. We're just going to put the Arnie films on. Calm down.
Funny enough, though, and that's an interesting thing as well now. I grew up watching horror movies. I did. And my nan used to send us in. And obviously you wouldn't be able to do it now, so it's a lot more stringently regulated. But John and I would go into Silverglade Video in town, and I can say it now because they've been out of business some years, with a letter from my nan saying, "Please let my grandchildren rent 18 certificate videos. It's okay with me." And we were probably, I don't know, maybe 12 and 9 at the time. And then, you out yourself to a horror movie, take it home. If your nan's okay with it, you can go watch them.
Bit of blue for the lads.
Bit of blue for the lads, exactly, yeah. But, well, this is it. Then we'd take it home. And I was having this conversation with Kim, and I was saying, it never did me any harm. And we'd watched a film called Night of the Demon, and I was like, oh, this has been edited. I remember the bit, like, when I watched it when I was about 9 or 10, and the motorcyclist gets his knob bitten off by a Yeti. And she was like, "And you're saying it hasn't affected you? You're noticing that small clip out of there that you watched 20, 30 years ago, and you still remember it. You can't say that hasn't affected you." And I thought, yeah, you might be right there. Might be right. But when my kids are born, I've got rid of all my horror movies. I used to have a pretty decent collection on DVD, and I got rid of them all. So I didn't want that vibe putting out into the house, watching them while they're at night. So they were picking up on that scary music and those scary themes. And now I just watch true crime documentaries instead.
I didn't know your nan did that. Which is crazy, really.
Different times back then, different times. God bless us. So we like to keep these podcasts to around about an hour, and I'm very conscious that we're recording another one starting in about 5-10 minutes time. So who wants to say their goodbyes first and any final messages they want to share?
I'll just say goodbye and thanks for having me on. Looking forward to the next episode. Hopefully it won't be too long before I see you guys again.
It won't be, dude. Don't you worry about that. Andy?
Yeah, it's been good. Good back to normal times, and good to see Dave again, and hopefully he's on soon.
Maybe the next episode. Who knows? For me, I'm just going to close it out again by thanking everybody for listening. And just to clarify a point, it is not okay to kick cats, and it is not okay to shoot cats. Tall Boy Radio are against that under nearly every circumstance. I'm joking. Don't do it, folks. See you later.